The rain came down in sheets, turning the cracked pavement into a mirror of gray skies and broken dreams. I clutched Emma tighter against my chest, her small body warm beneath the thin blanket I'd wrapped around her carrier. She was crying, that persistent, exhausted wail that told me she was hungry, tired, and probably needed changing. All things I couldn't fix standing here on this godforsaken street corner. The bus had left exactly 3 minutes ago. I'd watched its red taillights disappear around the corner while I was still half a block away, running with a diaper bag slapping against my hip, and my daughter screaming in my arms. 3 minutes. That's all it took for my entire day to collapse. I pressed my back against the bus shelter, trying to shield Emma from the wind. The plastic walls did nothing to keep out the cold. November in the city was merciless, especially when you couldn't afford a proper coat. Mine was 3 years old, bought from a thrift store, and the zipper had broken last week. I held it closed with one hand, while supporting Emma's carrier with the other. My phone showed 6:47 p.m. The next bus wouldn't come for another 40 minutes. 40 minutes in the freezing rain with a 6-month-old baby. The pediatrician's office had run late. Of course it had. And now I'd missed my connection. I'd also miss my shift at the diner if I didn't figure something out fast. And if I missed my shift, Rita would fire me. She'd already warned me twice about being late. I couldn't lose this job. It was the only thing keeping us afloat. Emma's cries intensified, her tiny fists flailing beneath the blanket. "I know, baby," I whispered, bouncing her gently. "I know. We'll be home soon. Mommy promises." It was a lie. We wouldn't be home soon, and when we finally got there, our apartment would be just as cold as this street corner, because I'd had to choose between the heating bill and Emma's prescription. Some choice. The street was nearly empty, most people already home or smart enough to take shelter from the storm. A few cars passed, their headlights cutting through the rain, wipers working frantically. None of them stopped. Why would they? I was just another struggling woman at a bus stop, invisible to the world that rushed by. Then I heard it. The low, powerful purr of an expensive engine. A black SUV pulled up to the curb. So close I instinctively stepped back. It was massive, gleaming even in the rain, with tinted windows so dark I couldn't see inside. The kind of vehicle that cost more than I'd earn in 5 years, maybe 10. The back passenger window rolled down with a smooth electric whisper. "You'll catch your death out here." The voice was male, deep, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Eastern European, maybe. Russian? It carried authority, the kind that made you straighten your spine without thinking. I leaned forward slightly, trying to see into the vehicle, but the interior was too dark. "I'm fine," I said automatically, even though I was soaked through and shivering. "Bus will be here soon." No, it won't. There was certainty in those 3 words. "Next one's in 38 minutes, I checked." How did he know that? I felt a prickle of unease run down my spine, but Emma chose that moment to let out a particularly piercing wail, and my maternal instincts overrode everything else. "I appreciate the concern, but we're okay. The baby's cold." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, delivered with an edge that made it sound like an accusation, like I was failing her. My cheeks burned despite the freezing rain. "We'll be fine," I repeated, hearing the defensive note in my voice. There was a pause. I could feel him watching me, though I still couldn't see his face. The rain drummed against the roof of the SUV, a steady rhythm that seemed to mark the seconds of his consideration. "Get in," he said finally. "I'll take you wherever you need to go." Every sensible part of my brain screamed no. Didn't matter how cold it was or how late I'd be. You didn't get into strangers' cars. That was rule number 1. Especially not expensive SUVs with tinted windows and men who spoke with that kind of absolute authority. But Emma was crying, and I was so tired, and the thought of standing here for another 38 minutes made something inside me crack. "I don't even know you," I said weakly. "No." Another pause. "But I know what it's like to be desperate." Something about the way he said it, so matter of fact, without pity or judgment, made me hesitate. The rear door opened from the inside, swinging wide like an invitation, or a trap. The interior light came on, and I caught my first real glimpse of him. He sat in the back seat, one arm stretched along the leather, completely at ease despite the chaos of the storm outside. Dark suit, perfectly tailored, probably Italian. A crisp white shirt open at the collar. No tie. His face was all hard angles and sharp edges, high cheekbones, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, a straight nose that looked like it had been broken at least once. His hair was dark, swept back, with just a touch of silver at the temples that somehow made him look more dangerous rather than older. But it was his eyes that stopped me cold. Dark, almost black, and absolutely intense. They fixed on me with a focus that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. Like he was taking inventory of every detail, my soaked hair plastered to my face, my broken coat, my cheap sneakers with the sole coming loose, my daughter screaming in my arms. He didn't smile, didn't soften, just watched. "Your baby needs warmth," he said quietly. "Let me provide it." In the driver's seat, I could see another man, huge, bald, with a neck like a tree trunk. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge my presence at all, just stared straight ahead like a statue. This was insane. This was how people disappeared. But Emma's cries were getting weaker, more whimpery, and that scared me more than any stranger possibly could. I made my decision in the space between heartbeats. "Just to the diner on 5th Street, I said, climbing into the SUV before I could change my mind. "I work there. I can't be late." The door closed behind me with a heavy, solid thunk that sounded like a vault ceiling. The driver pulled away from the curb immediately, smooth and fast, and suddenly we were moving through the rain-slicked streets. The interior was warm, blissfully, wonderfully warm. I could feel the heat seeping into my frozen bones immediately. The seats were cream leather, soft as butter. There was a faint scent in the air, expensive cologne, something woody and dark with a hint of spice. Beneath it, I caught something else. Danger. Power. The kind you couldn't buy, only earned. "Thank you," I managed, adjusting Emma's carrier in my lap. She was already calming down, responding to the warmth. "Really? Thank you." He didn't respond immediately, just continued watching me with those unsettling eyes. Up close, I realized he was younger than I'd first thought, maybe mid-30s, but there was something ancient in his gaze, something that said he'd seen too much. "What's her name?" he asked, nodding toward Emma. "Emma." I pulled the blanket down slightly so he could see her face. "She's 6 months. Beautiful." He said it without inflection, a simple observation. His eyes lingered on her for a moment before returning to me. "And you?" "Sophie." It came out automatically before I could think better of giving my real name to a stranger. "Sophie Ward. Sophie." He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting the syllables. "You work at a diner." It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. "Evening shift. If I don't show up, you'll lose your job," he finished. "Yes, I understand." The way he said it made me think he did understand, really understand. But that was ridiculous. Men who rode in vehicles like this, who wore suits that cost thousands, who commanded that kind of presence, they didn't understand what it was like to choose between heating and medicine. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I watched the city slide by through the tinted windows, trying to orient myself. We were heading in the right direction, at least. The driver navigated the streets with precise efficiency, never hesitating, always knowing exactly where to turn. "How did you know?" I asked suddenly. "About the bus schedule." A slight curve touched his lips. Not quite a smile, but close. "I make it my business to know things." That should have scared me more than it did. "You have someone who can watch her?" He nodded at Emma again. "While you work?" My chest tightened. "My neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She helps out sometimes." Another lie. Mrs. Chen had helped exactly twice before, telling me she was too old to manage a baby. Now I left Emma in the apartment with a baby monitor, checking on her during my breaks. It was illegal, definitely unsafe, and it made me sick with guilt every single night. But I had no choice. Daycare cost more than I made. Family wasn't an option. My parents had made that clear when I'd gotten pregnant. His eyes narrowed slightly, like he knew I was lying, but he didn't call me out on it. "The father?" His tone was casual. but there was something sharp beneath it. Gone. The word came out harder than I intended. Has been since I told him I was pregnant. Coward. It was said with such cold contempt that I blinked. He wasn't looking at me anymore, but at something beyond the window, his jaw tight. Yeah, I agreed softly. He was. The SUV slowed, and I realized we were already on 5th Street. The diner's neon sign glowed red through the rain, rosies, with the S flickering like it might give up any second. My heart sank. I was going to be late anyway. Rita would be furious. The driver pulled up right in front of the entrance, and I fumbled for the door handle, suddenly desperate to escape the intensity of those dark eyes. "Thank you again," I said quickly. "Really, you saved us tonight." "Sophie." I froze halfway out of the vehicle, Emma's carrier in my hands. Turned back. He was leaning forward slightly, close enough that I could see the exact shade of his eyes. Not black, but such a dark brown they were almost obsidian. Close enough to smell that cologne again, to feel the heat radiating from him. "Be careful," he said quietly. "These streets aren't safe at night, for you or your daughter." There was something in his voice, a warning maybe, or a promise. I couldn't tell which. I will," I stammered. He reached into his jacket, and my heart stopped. But he just pulled out a card, thick, cream-colored, expensive. Extended it toward me between 2 fingers. "If you need anything." I took it automatically, my fingers brushing his for just a second. His skin was warm, his grip firm. The touch sent an unexpected jolt through me. The card was heavy, embossed. No name. Just a phone number in elegant script. "I can't accept," I started. "You already have." He leaned back, that almost smile returning. "Now go. You're late." I stumbled out into the rain, Emma's carrier held against my chest. The door closed behind me, and the SUV pulled away, silent and swift as a shark. I stood there for a moment, rain soaking me all over again, staring at the card in my hand. What the hell had just happened? Who was he? And why did the thought of never seeing him again make my chest ache in a way that had nothing to do with the cold? "Sophie!" Rita's voice screeched from the diner entrance. "You're 15 minutes late. Get in here." I shoved the card into my pocket and hurried inside, my mind still spinning with questions I had no answers to. I didn't know then that accepting that ride had just changed everything. That the man in the expensive suit with the dangerous eyes had already decided something about me the moment he'd seen me standing in the rain. I didn't know that I'd just made a deal with the devil without even realizing it. And I definitely didn't know that the father of my child, the coward who'd abandoned us, had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He'd stolen from the wrong man. The next 3 days passed in a blur of exhaustion and routine. Emma, the diner, our freezing apartment. Repeat. I tried not to think about the stranger in the SUV, about those dark eyes that had seemed to see straight through me, tried not to wonder who he was or why he'd helped us. But the card stayed in my pocket. I'd pull it out sometimes during my breaks, running my fingers over the embossed numbers, feeling the weight of expensive paper stock. Once, late at night when Emma was finally asleep and the loneliness pressed down like a physical weight, I'd almost called. Almost. But what would I say? Thank you for the ride? That seemed absurd, so I kept it. And I tried to forget. I was wiping down tables on Thursday night when everything fell apart. The diner was nearly empty, just old Mr. Kowalski in his usual corner booth, nursing his coffee and doing crossword puzzles. Rita was in the back, probably smoking and scrolling through her phone. The rain had returned, drumming against the windows, making the whole world feel small and isolated. The door chimed. I looked up automatically, ready with my server smile. "Welcome to Rosie's. Sit anywhere you—" The words died in my throat. 3 men stood in the doorway, water dripping from their jackets onto the worn linoleum. They weren't the usual late-night crowd. Too well-dressed, too aware, their eyes scanning the diner with the practiced assessment of people who were used to looking for exits and threats. But it was the one in the middle who made my blood run cold. Marcus. He looked different than I remembered, thinner, with shadows under his eyes and a nervous energy that radiated off him like heat. His hair was longer, messier. He wore an expensive leather jacket I'd never seen before, designer jeans, shoes that probably cost more than my month's rent. Sophie. His voice was the same, smooth, charming, the voice that had once made me believe in fairy tales. Now it just made me want to run. Baby, God, it's good to see you. I took a step back, my hand instinctively going to the pocket where I kept my phone. Get out. Now, is that any way to greet the father of your child? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Those were calculating, desperate. I've been looking everywhere for you. I said, get out. My voice was steadier this time, louder. Mr. Kowalski looked up from his crossword, frowning. You have no right to be here. Actually, I have every right. Marcus took a step forward, and the two men flanking him moved with him, perfectly synchronized. We need to talk. About Emma. Hearing her name in his mouth made rage flare hot in my chest. You don't get to say her name. You don't get to show up here after 9 months and pretend you give a damn about her. Things are different now, he said. And there was something in his tone. Fear, maybe, or panic. I made some money. Good money. I can take care of you both now, provide for... I don't want your money. I cut him off. I don't want anything from you. You made your choice when you walked out. His jaw tightened. Sophie, you don't understand. I'm in a situation here. I don't care what you need. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice firm. Leave, now, or I'm calling the police. One of the men, tall with a scar running down his cheek, laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. The police? That's cute. Marcus held up a hand, silencing him. Sophie, please, just 5 minutes. Let me explain. No. Sophie! Rita's voice boomed from the kitchen. What the hell is going on out here? She emerged, all 5'2" of her, arms crossed over her ample chest. Rita had run this diner for 30 years, and she didn't take shit from anyone. She took one look at Marcus and his friends, and her eyes narrowed. We don't want trouble, she said flatly. You boys need to move along. This is a private conversation, the scarred man said. This is my diner, Rita shot back, and I say get out before I call the cops. The third man, who'd been silent until now, pulled back his jacket just enough to show the gun tucked into his waistband. Mr. Kowalski made a small noise and ducked lower in his booth. I don't think you want to do that, the man said quietly. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely breathe. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not now. Marcus, please, I whispered. Just go. Whatever this is, I can't help you. But you can. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell the expensive cologne he was wearing, too much of it, like he was trying to cover something else. Fear sweat, maybe. I just need you to tell them. The door chimed again. Everyone turned. He stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his dark coat, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The man from the SUV, but he was different now, harder, colder, with an aura of controlled violence that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. He wasn't alone. The huge bald man from the driver's seat stood behind him, along with 2 others, all of them watching, perfectly still, perfectly dangerous. The stranger's dark eyes swept the diner, taking in everything in a single glance. Marcus and his men. Rita, white-faced and pressed against the counter. Mr. Kowalski trying to make himself invisible. Me, standing there with my heart in my throat, his gaze locked on me, and something flickered across his face. Concern? Anger? It was gone too fast to identify. Then he looked at Marcus, and his expression went utterly blank. Empty. That was somehow more terrifying than rage would have been. Marcus Sullivan. His voice was soft, almost gentle, but it carried through the diner like a judge pronouncing sentence. You've been difficult to find. Marcus had gone pale, all the color draining from his face. Mr. Volkov, I can explain. Can you? The stranger, Volkov, took a single step forward. Just one. But Marcus and his men all stepped back, instinctively creating distance. You stole from me $300,000, and then you disappeared. $300,000. The number echoed in my head, not making sense. Marcus had never had that kind of money. Never had access to anything close to. It was a mistake, Marcus was saying, words tumbling out fast and desperate. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time. I have a plan. You had time. Volkov's tone didn't change, still soft, still terrifying. 6 months. And instead of making it right, you ran, and you dragged innocent people into your mess. His eyes flicked to me again, just for a second. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. You came here looking for me, I said to Marcus, my voice hollow. You knew he was looking for you. You thought, what? That I could help? That I'd protect you? Sophie, baby, you don't understand what these people are. Don't. Volkov's single word cut through Marcus's pleading like a knife. Don't speak to her. The scarred man made a move toward his weapon. He didn't even get his hand on it before Volkov's men had guns drawn, aimed, ready. The big bald man had moved so fast I'd barely seen it, positioning himself between Volkov and any potential threat. Gentlemen. Volkov's voice remained calm, almost bored. There are civilians present. Let's not be uncivilized. You can't just... Marcus started. I can. Volkov smiled, and it was the most frightening thing I'd ever seen. All teeth, no warmth. You know I can. The question is whether I do it here or somewhere more private. Please. Marcus was begging now, all his charm and bravado stripped away. I'll get you the money, all of it. Just give me more time. I swear, your promises mean nothing. Volkov's eyes were black ice. You had a chance to make this right. You chose to run instead. And then... His voice dropped even lower. You came here. To her. He moved then, fast and fluid, crossing the diner in 3 strides. Marcus tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. Volkov grabbed him by the throat, not choking, just holding, making a point, and leaned in close. You involved her in this, Volkov said, so quiet I almost couldn't hear. A woman with a child. Your child. That was a mistake, Marcus. A very serious mistake. I wasn't. Marcus could barely speak. You led my people to her door. Each word was enunciated with perfect, deadly precision. You made her a target. You put that baby at risk. For what? To buy yourself a few more days? Marcus's friends had their hands up now, weapons forgotten, clearly wanting no part of whatever was happening. Smart men. I'm sorry, Marcus whimpered. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... No. Volkov released him with a small shove that sent Marcus stumbling backward. You never do. He turned to his men, switching to a language I didn't understand. Russian, maybe, all harsh consonants and rolling R's. 2 of them moved forward immediately, grabbing Marcus and his friends with efficient brutality. Wait! I found my voice, stepped forward without thinking. Please, don't... Volkov turned to me, and the blankness in his face softened slightly. Just slightly. Don't what? He asked. Don't collect what I'm owed? Don't punish a thief? I don't care about that, I said, even though my voice was shaking. I don't care about your money or your business. But if you hurt him... I swallowed hard. He's Emma's father. She doesn't know him, but someday she might want to, and I don't want her to grow up knowing that I let... His eyebrow rose. You think you have a choice in this? I'm asking you not to. I met his eyes, forced myself to hold that dark gaze, even though everything in me wanted to look away. Please. For Emma. Something shifted in his expression. He studied me for a long moment, and I had the sense of being weighed, measured, evaluated against some internal standard I couldn't begin to guess. You would ask mercy for a man who abandoned you? He said finally. Who left you to struggle alone? Who came here tonight and put you in danger? I'm not asking for his sake, I said quietly. I'm asking for my daughter's. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the rain against the windows and Marcus's heavy breathing. Rita was watching with wide eyes. Mr. Kowalski had his phone out, probably calling the police despite the earlier threats. Very well. Volkov's decision came suddenly, definitively. He turned to his men, spoke again in Russian. Their expressions showed surprise, but they didn't question. just nodded and dragged Marcus and his friends toward the door. "Thank you," I breathed. "Don't thank me yet." He moved closer, close enough that I could smell that cologne again, see the fine lines around his eyes. I'm not killing him, but he will work off his debt, every penny. And it will take years. Marcus let out a sob of relief. "However," Volkov continued, still looking at me, "the situation has become complicated. He led my people to you, which means other people know about you now. People who might think they can use you to get to him, or to me." "To you?" I didn't understand. "Why would—" "Because I've taken an interest." He said it simply, like it was obvious. "And in my world, that makes you valuable, which makes you vulnerable." Fear coiled in my stomach. "I don't want to be part of your world." Too late. His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek so gently I almost didn't feel it. Almost. "You accepted the ride, Sophie. You took my card. And now Marcus has connected us publicly. Whether you want it or not, you're already involved." "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "It's not. But it's reality. And reality doesn't care about fair." His men were at the door, Marcus between them, still crying. Volkov glanced at them, then back at me. "I'll have someone watching the diner," he said. "And your apartment, for your protection. I don't need—" "Yes, you do." It wasn't a suggestion. You just don't know it yet. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a phone. Sleek, expensive, nothing like my battered old model. Held it out. "Take it. It has one number programmed in, mine. If anything happens, anything at all, you call, immediately." I stared at the phone like it was a snake. "I can't accept this." "You can. You will." He pressed it into my hand, his fingers wrapping around mine, warm and firm. "Don't argue, Sophie. Not about this." "Why?" The question burst out of me. "Why do you care? You don't even know me." Something flickered across his face. Something almost like pain, there and gone in an instant. "No," he said softly. "But I'm going to." Then he was gone, moving toward the door with that same fluid grace. His men followed, Marcus stumbling between them. The door chimed as they left, and suddenly the diner felt empty. Too quiet, like a held breath finally released. Rita let out a shaky laugh. "What the fuck was that?" I looked down at the phone in my hand, expensive and heavy and humming with silent significance. "I have no idea," I whispered. But I was lying. Some part of me knew exactly what it was. It was the beginning of the end of my freedom. And God help me, I wasn't sure I wanted to fight it. I called in sick the next day. Rita didn't give me trouble about it, for once, probably because she was still shaken from the night before. Mr. Kowalski had indeed called the police, but by the time they arrived, everyone was gone except me, Rita, and a very confused elderly man trying to explain what he'd seen. The cops took statements, looked skeptical, and left with warnings about staying out of trouble, as if I'd had a choice. I spent the day in our tiny apartment, watching Emma play with her stuffed rabbit on a blanket, trying to process what had happened. Marcus had stolen $300,000 from a man named Volkov, a man who commanded respect with a single look, who had people killed with a word, a man who now claimed I needed protection because Marcus had connected us, a man who looked at me like I was something precious and breakable and his. The phone he'd given me sat on the coffee table, silent and accusatory. I'd turned it on once, just to see. One contact, V. No missed calls, no messages, just waiting. I should throw it away. Should pack up Emma and disappear, move to another city, start over somewhere he'd never find me. But even as I thought it, I knew it was pointless. Men like Volkov didn't lose track of things they'd claimed. And somehow, in the space of a single car ride and one confrontation, he'd decided I belonged to him. The rational part of my brain was screaming danger. The part that had barely slept in 9 months, that was drowning in bills and fear and loneliness. That part whispered, what if? What if he meant it? What if he really would protect us? What if, for once in my life, I didn't have to do everything alone? I hated that part of myself, hated how tempting it was. Emma made a happy gurgling sound, waving her rabbit at me. She was smiling. Her whole face lit up with pure joy at this simple toy. When was the last time I'd smiled like that? Before Marcus, probably. Before I'd learned that princes were just men in nice clothes, and fairy tales were lies we told ourselves to sleep better at night. A knock at the door made me jump. I scooped Emma up, held her close, crept to the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, petite, Asian, maybe mid-40s, wearing a professional gray suit and carrying a large bag. She looked directly at the peephole, as if she knew I was watching. "Ms. Ward." Her voice was accented, crisp. "My name is Lynn. Mr. Volkov sent me. Of course he did." I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. "I didn't ask for anything. No." Lynn's smile was polite, professional, and utterly inflexible. "But Mr. Volkov insists." "May I come in? I have supplies for the baby, and food. You didn't eat yesterday." How did he know that? Had he been watching me? The thought should have terrified me. Instead, it sent a strange heat through my chest. "I don't need—" "Ms. Ward." Lynn's smile didn't waver. "I can stand in this hallway explaining. Or you can let me in and I can show you what I've brought. Either way, I'm not leaving until you accept Mr. Volkov's assistance." He was very clear about that. I stared at her for a long moment, then sighed and undid the chain. What was the point of fighting? He'd already made it clear I didn't have a choice. Lynn entered with brisk efficiency, setting her bag on my sagging couch. "The apartment is not suitable," she observed, looking around at the water-stained ceiling, the drafty windows, the ancient radiator that clanked and barely produced heat. "Mr. Volkov will want to move you somewhere better." "Absolutely not. It's not safe here." Lynn began unpacking her bag. Formula, diapers, baby food, toys that looked expensive enough to cover a month's rent. "The locks are inadequate. The neighborhood has a high crime rate. And after last night, you're a known target." "This is my home. This is a death trap." Lynn said it without malice, just fact. "But we'll discuss relocation later. For now," she pulled out containers of food, still warm. The smell hit me immediately. Garlic, herbs, something rich and savory that made my stomach growl. "You need to eat." "When did you last have a proper meal?" I couldn't remember. "I eat. Vending machine food and diner leftovers don't count." She was already setting out plates, arranging food like she did this every day. Maybe she did. "Sit. Feed your daughter, then feed yourself." I wanted to argue, wanted to throw her out, throw the phone away, pretend none of this was happening. But Emma was starting to fuss, and the food smelled so good, and I was so tired of fighting every single battle alone. So I sat, and I fed Emma. And then, while Lynn held my daughter with a competence that suggested she'd done this before, I ate. It was the best meal I'd had in months, maybe years. "Mr. Volkov wants to meet Emma," Lynn said while I was finishing, properly. "Not in a diner during a confrontation." I nearly choked. "No. He won't hurt her." Lynn's tone was gentle, but firm. "He would never hurt a child. That's not who he is." "I don't know who he is," I shot back. "He's a criminal, a mobster or whatever. He threatened Marcus. Marcus stole from him." Lynn's eyes hardened. "And then led dangerous people to your door. Mr. Volkov stopped that. He protected you. By claiming I'm under his protection? By making me a target?" "You were already a target the moment Marcus came to that diner." Lynn leaned forward. "Ms. Ward, Sophie, in our world, there are very few truly dangerous men. Mr. Volkov is one of them, but he's also a man of honor, old-fashioned honor, and he's decided you're under his care now. That means something. It means you're safer than you've ever been. I don't want to be owned. He doesn't want to own you." Lynn paused. "Well, not entirely. He wants to protect you. There's a difference." "Is there?" Lynn's smile was knowing, almost sympathetic. "With Mr. Volkov? Sometimes. He's complicated, but he's not Marcus. He won't abandon you. He won't let you struggle, and he won't let anyone hurt you or Emma. Not ever again." I looked at my daughter, happily gnawing on her rabbit while this stranger held her like she was something precious. Thought about the cold apartment, the unpaid bills stacked on the counter, the constant terror of one missed shift, one sick day, one broken pipe destroying everything. What does he want from me? I asked quietly. I don't know, Lynn admitted. He doesn't confide in me about personal matters, but I've worked for him for 8 years, and I've never seen him like this. So careful, so concerned. Why me? That's a question only he can answer. The phone on the table buzzed. We both looked at it. A text message, just 2 words. Tomorrow, noon. My hands were shaking as I picked it up, typed back. Where? The response came immediately. I'll send a car. Bring Emma. Dress comfortably. Lynn watched me, saying nothing. If I refuse? I typed. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you won't. He was right. God help me. He was right. The car arrived at 11:45 the next morning. Not the SUV from that first night, but a sedan. Still expensive, still black, still with tinted windows. A different driver this time, younger, with kind eyes and a gentle smile as he opened the door for me. Ms. Ward, I'm Alexei. Mr. Volkov asked me to drive you. Emma was in her carrier, dressed in one of the new outfits Lynn had brought. Soft pink cotton that actually fit her properly. I'd tried to dress up too, but my options were limited. Clean jeans, my least worn sweater, boots I'd scrubbed the salt stains off. I felt shabby next to the car's leather interior. Alexei caught my eye in the rearview mirror. You look lovely, he said, like he could read my thoughts. Mr. Volkov will think so too. I didn't know what to say to that. We drove through the city, leaving my neighborhood behind. The buildings got nicer, the streets cleaner. We passed through downtown, then into an area I'd only ever seen in magazines. Old money, historic homes, private gates. The car turned into a long driveway lined with iron fencing. A guard waved us through without stopping, already expecting us. The house beyond made my breath catch. It was a mansion. Stone and glass, sprawling across manicured grounds, with tall windows that caught the winter sun. Security cameras everywhere, though discreetly placed. More guards, trying to look like groundskeepers but failing. This is where he lives? I whispered. One of his properties. Alexei pulled up to the front entrance, where massive wooden doors stood open. He has several. Of course he did. Volkov was waiting at the top of the steps. He looked different in daylight. Less dangerous, maybe, though that was probably an illusion. He wore dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent, sleeves pushed up to reveal strong forearms. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered. No guards immediately visible, though I was sure they were there. He came down the steps as Alexei opened my door, and suddenly he was right there, close enough to touch, looking at me with those impossibly dark eyes. Sophie. My name in his mouth sounded different, important. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? A slight smile touched his lips. Always, but I'm glad you made this one. He looked down at Emma, and his expression transformed, softened in a way I hadn't thought possible. May I? I hesitated, then nodded. He reached for the carrier with surprising gentleness, lifting it like it weighed nothing. Emma stared up at him with wide eyes, and I tensed, waiting for her to cry. She always cried with strangers, but she didn't. She just watched him, curious, one tiny fist escaping her blanket to wave at the air. Beautiful, he murmured. Like her mother. Heat flooded my cheeks. Mr. Volkov. Dmitri. He looked at me again. When it's just us, call me Dmitri. Just us. Like we were something. Like this was normal. Come inside, he said, already turning toward the house. It's too cold out here for her. And I followed because what else could I do? Leave Emma with him and run? The thought was absurd. The interior of the mansion was even more overwhelming than the exterior. Marble floors, high ceilings, artwork that looked like it belonged in museums. But Dmitri led me past all of it, down a hallway to a room at the back of the house. It was warm, sun-filled, with large windows overlooking a garden, and it was filled with baby things. A crib, white, expensive, with soft bedding covered in stars. A changing table stocked with supplies, toys, books, a mobile with gentle music. A comfortable chair by the window, perfect for feeding or rocking. Everything new, everything perfect. Everything chosen with care. What is this? My voice came out strangled. A nursery. He set Emma's carrier down gently, began unbuckling her with practiced ease that shocked me. For when you visit. Visit. I stared at him. You built a nursery for visits? Yes. He lifted Emma out, held her against his chest like he'd done it 1,000 times. She settled immediately, her small hand gripping his sweater. Though I hope eventually it will be more than that. You're insane. Probably. He smiled down at Emma, and something in my chest cracked at the tenderness in his expression. But I've never been accused of thinking small. I should have been angry, should have grabbed my daughter and run. But I was transfixed by the sight of this dangerous man holding my baby, like she was made of glass, looking at her like she was the most important thing in the world. Why are you doing this? I whispered. He looked up, met my eyes, and the intensity there stole my breath. Because Marcus was a fool, he said quietly. Because any man who would walk away from this, from you, from her, doesn't deserve what he had. And because I've spent 15 years building an empire, accumulating power and wealth and influence, and none of it has ever felt like it meant anything. Until I saw you standing in the rain, protecting your daughter from a world that had already failed you both. And I thought... He paused, jaw tightening. I thought, here is something worth protecting. Here is something real. You don't know me. Not yet. He took a step closer, still holding Emma, who was falling asleep against his shoulder. But I will. If you let me. And if I don't? His smile was sad. Then I'll still make sure you're safe. Still make sure Emma has everything she needs. Still watch from a distance and wonder what it would have been like if you'd said yes. Yes to what? To letting me into your life. He reached out with his free hand, fingers brushing my cheek like he'd done in the diner. To accepting that someone wants to take care of you for once. To trusting that not all men are Marcus. Tears stung my eyes. I can't afford to trust. I know. His thumb caught a tear that escaped, wiped it away so gently it hurt. But maybe you can afford to try. Emma sighed in her sleep, a soft, content sound, and standing there in that perfect nursery, with this dangerous man holding my daughter like she was his own, I felt something inside me begin to break. All the walls I'd built, all the armor I'd worn, cracking under the weight of possibility. What if he meant it? What if this was real? What if for once I let myself believe? Stay for lunch, Dmitri said softly. Let me feed you. Let Emma sleep somewhere warm. And then, if you want to leave, Alexei will take you home. No pressure. No obligations. Just let me do this. Please. I looked into those dark eyes and saw something I never expected to see. Hope. Okay, I breathed. His smile was like sunrise. And I knew in that moment I was lost. Lunch turned into dinner. I hadn't meant to stay so long, but Dmitri made it impossible to leave. Not through force or manipulation, but through quiet care that dismantled every defense I had. He fed me courses I couldn't pronounce, cooked by a chef who appeared and disappeared like a ghost. He showed me the gardens, Emma bundled in his arms, pointing out winter roses and explaining their care with unexpected passion. He asked questions, real questions about my life, my dreams, what I'd wanted to be before Marcus and pregnancy had derailed everything. And he listened. Actually listened. Like my words mattered. Like I mattered. By the time Alexei drove us home, the sun had set and Emma was deep asleep, her belly full and her cheeks pink with warmth. I carried her upstairs to our cold apartment, and the contrast was so stark it physically hurt. The nursery's soft comfort versus our drafty rooms. Dimitri's warm attention versus the crushing loneliness I'd lived with for months. I put Emma to bed and sat in the dark, the expensive phone in my hand, and tried to convince myself this was dangerous, that I needed to run, that men like Dmitri Volkov didn't do things out of kindness. There was always a price. But when I closed my eyes, all I could see was the way he'd looked at Emma. Like she was precious. Like she deserved the world, like I did too. The phone buzzed. Home safe? I stared at the text for a long moment before typing back. Yes. Thank you for today. The pleasure was mine. Sleep well, Sophie. Both of you. I did sleep, better than I had in months. The next week blurred into a pattern I couldn't have predicted. Dimitri didn't push, didn't demand, but somehow he was always there. A text in the morning asking how Emma slept, a delivery of groceries I hadn't ordered, Lynn appearing with supplies and gentle conversation. On Wednesday, my apartment's heat finally gave out completely. I called the landlord, got voicemail, left a message I knew would be ignored. Wrapped Emma in every blanket we owned and tried not to panic about how I'd afford a hotel. 30 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. 2 men stood in the hallway, toolboxes in hand, looking professionally competent. "Ms. Ward, we're here to fix your heating system." I started, then stopped. Of course I hadn't. "Did Dimitri send you?" "Mr. Volkov wants to ensure the baby stays warm," one of them said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They had the heat working within an hour. Refused payment. Left me with a warmth that had nothing to do with the fixed radiator. I texted him, "You can't just fix my apartment." His response, "I can. I did. Emma needs to be warm. I'm not a charity case. No. You're someone I care about. There's a difference." I stared at those words until they blurred. On Friday, Rita cornered me during my shift. "That man," she said, wiping down the counter with more force than necessary. "The scary one. He came by yesterday." My heart stopped. Dimitri was here? Didn't come inside. Just sat in that big car of his across the street. Watching. For 3 hours. She gave me a look. "Want to tell me what's going on, Sophie?" "I don't know," I admitted. "He says he wants to protect me. From what?" "From everything, apparently." Rita was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "Look, I don't know what you've gotten yourself into, and I don't want to know, but that man, he looks at this place like he's memorizing every exit, every threat. Like he's ready to burn the whole city down if something happens to you." She paused. "Just be careful, honey. Men that intense? They don't do anything by halves." I thought about that all night, about the way Dimitri had held Emma, the gentle reverence in his touch, the cold efficiency when he dealt with Marcus. 2 sides of the same man, tender and terrifying. Which one was real? Or were they both? Sunday, he invited us to his home again. This time, there were others there. "My family," Dimitri explained as Alexei drove us through the gates. "They want to meet you." Panic fluttered in my chest. "Why?" "Because you're important to me. That makes you important to them." The house was full of people. An older woman with sharp eyes and Dimitri's bone structure who introduced herself as Katya, his mother. 2 men who looked enough like him to be brothers, Victor and Alexander, both watching me with cautious curiosity. A little girl, maybe 4, who squealed with delight at seeing Emma and immediately wanted to hold her. "Natasha, careful," Victor warned, but Dimitri shook his head. "Let her. Sophie, this is my niece. She's gentle," and she was. She sat on the couch, Emma in her lap under careful supervision, talking to the baby in a mix of English and Russian, her face glowing with joy. Katya pulled me aside while the men talked in low voices. "My son tells me you work at a diner." Here it comes, I thought. The judgment, the classism. "Yes." "Good." Her answer surprised me. "You know how to work, how to survive. That matters more than people think." She studied me with those sharp eyes, so like Dimitri's. "He's different with you. Softer. I wasn't sure he remembered how to be soft." "I don't understand what he wants from me," I admitted quietly. "Everything." Katya's smile was knowing, but he'll wait. He's patient when it matters, and you matter, Sophie Ward, more than you know. Lunch was chaotic and warm, and nothing like I'd expected. They argued in Russian, laughed at jokes I didn't understand, but included me in everything that mattered. Victor's wife, Marina, appeared with their twins, boys who immediately made Emma laugh with their faces. Alexander told stories that had everyone groaning. Natasha refused to let go of Emma, declaring herself the baby's big sister now. And through it all, Dimitri watched me. Not possessively exactly, but with a focus that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. When it was time to leave, Natasha cried. "When will Emma come back?" "Soon," Dimitri promised, kneeling to her level. Very soon, in the car, Emma asleep in her carrier, I finally asked the question that had been burning in me all day. Why are you doing this? Really? Dimitri was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father was a violent man. He ruled through fear, destroyed anyone who crossed him, including his own family. My mother stayed because she had nowhere else to go, no one to protect her. I watched her suffer for years before I was old enough to stop it. His jaw tightened. When I saw you in that rain, struggling alone because another man had failed you, I saw my mother. And I swore I would never let that happen. Not to you, not to Emma, never again. Tears burned my eyes. I'm not your mother. No. He turned to look at me, and the raw emotion in his face stole my breath. But you could be mine, if you wanted. You and Emma both. I'm not... I struggled for words. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not special. I'm just a waitress with a baby and more problems than solutions. You're everything, he said fiercely. You're strong enough to survive alone, but brave enough to accept help. You're a mother who would beg mercy for a man who abandoned you, just so your daughter might have a father someday. You're beautiful and stubborn, and so damn proud you'd rather freeze than ask for help. He reached across the seat, took my hand. You're exactly who I think you are, Sophie. And that's why I'm not letting you go. You can't just decide that. Watch me. The intensity in his eyes should have scared me. Instead, it set something on fire inside my chest. What if I run? I whispered. I'll find you. No hesitation. I'll always find you. And I'll keep protecting you whether you're here or halfway across the world. Because that's what you do for the people you... He stopped, jaw clenching. The people you what? He looked at me, and I saw it. The thing he wasn't saying. The thing that was too big, too soon, too impossible. The people you care about, he finished quietly, but that wasn't what he'd almost said, and we both knew it. That night Marcus called. I almost didn't answer the unknown number, but something made me pick up. His voice was hollow, exhausted. Sophie, it's me. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter. I need you to know something. About Volkov. About what I did. I don't want to hear it, Marcus. Please. He sounded broken. Just listen. The money I stole, it wasn't just business funds. It was payment for a shipment. A shipment that got intercepted by the feds because I tipped them off. I thought... He laughed bitterly. I thought I could play both sides. Get immunity, keep the money, disappear. Ice flooded my veins. You're an informant. Was. They dropped me when Volkov's people found me first. But Sophie, the people he was dealing with, the ones who lost that shipment, they're not going to let this go. They think Volkov set them up, and when they come for him, they'll come for anyone he cares about. I finished, understanding crashing over me. That's why you came to the diner. You wanted to warn me? I wanted to use you, he admitted. Thought maybe if I convinced you to run, take Emma away, I could use that as leverage. But seeing you with him, he paused. He really cares about you, doesn't he? I don't know. I do. I saw it. And Sophie, that makes you the most dangerous target in the city. These people, they'll hurt you to hurt him. They'll take Emma. Stop. My hands were shaking. Just stop. You need to run. Take Emma and disappear before... I hung up. Sat there in the dark, my daughter sleeping peacefully in her crib, and tried to process what I'd just heard. The phone Dimitri had given me felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I should run. Should pack everything, withdraw what little money I had, and disappear. It would be hard, but I'd survived hard before. Emma would be safe. We'd be free. But even as I thought it, I knew I wouldn't. Because Dimitri had been right about one thing. I was already involved. Marcus had made sure of that, and running would just make me a target without protection. At least here, with Dimitri watching over us, we had a chance. I picked up the phone, texted, "We need to talk." The response was immediate. "I'm outside." I looked out the window. The black SUV sat across the street, engine running, Dimitri visible in the back seat. How long had he been there? "Come up," I typed, 2 minutes later, he was at my door. I let him in, and he filled my tiny apartment with his presence, making everything feel smaller and safer at the same time. "Marcus called," I said without preamble. "He told me about the shipment, about the people who are coming." Dimitri's expression went cold. "What exactly did he tell you?" I repeated everything, watched his jaw tighten with each word. "He's right," he said finally. "There are people who will use you to get to me. That's why I've had guards on you since the diner. That's why I—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "That's why I need you to let me move you. Somewhere secure. Somewhere I can actually protect you." "Move where?" "My home. The estate. It's a fortress, Sophie. Guards, cameras, everything. You and Emma would be safe there. As what? Your prisoners?" "As my guests." He stepped closer. "As my family, if you'll let us be." "This is insane." "Yes." He cupped my face in his hands and I let him, too tired to fight. "But it's also the truth. I can't protect you from here. I can't sleep knowing you're in this place with locks that wouldn't stop a child, in a neighborhood where anyone could get to you. Please, Sophie, let me keep you safe. And if I say no, then I'll put guards in this hallway, in the apartment next door, on the roof. I'll make this building into a fortress. Your neighbors will hate you, and you'll feel like you're living in a prison anyway. But at least at my home, you'd be comfortable. Emma would have that nursery. You'd have warmth and food and you," I finished. "Yes." No shame in his admission. Me. Watching over you, taking care of you, making sure nothing ever hurts you again. I looked at him, this dangerous, powerful man who'd somehow decided I was worth protecting. Worth everything. "One condition," I said finally. "Anything. I'm not a prisoner. If I want to leave, I can leave. No locks, no guards preventing me. I stay because I choose to, not because you force me." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Agreed. But Sophie, if you leave, the guards follow. I won't risk your safety, even for your freedom. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Okay?" I breathed. "Okay, we'll come." The relief on his face was almost painful to see. He pulled me into his arms, held me like I might disappear. "I won't let anything happen to you," he murmured into my hair. "I swear it." And standing there in his embrace, my daughter sleeping peacefully nearby, I chose to believe him. I chose to trust. God help us both. Moving into Dimitri's estate felt like stepping into another world. Lynn helped me pack our meager belongings, though she gently suggested most of it could be replaced. "Mr. Volkov has already arranged for everything you'll need," she said, folding Emma's worn onesies with care despite their frayed edges. "I want her to have her things," I insisted. "The rabbit, her blankets, things that smell like home." Lynn's expression softened. "Of course. I understand." The move happened at night, quietly, with multiple cars to confuse anyone watching. Dimitri rode with us, Emma in his arms, his thumb stroking her cheek while she slept. He'd barely let her go since we'd agreed to come. "You're going to spoil her," I said, watching them. "Good." His eyes didn't leave Emma's face. "She deserves to be spoiled. So do you." The estate looked different at night, imposing and fortress-like, exactly as he'd promised. Guards everywhere, though they tried to be discreet. Cameras, motion sensors, enough security to protect a president, or a mafia boss and the people he'd claimed as his. Inside, the house was warm and lit softly, welcoming. Katya waited in the foyer, her sharp eyes taking in my exhaustion with understanding. "Come," she said, gesturing. "I'll show you to your rooms." Rooms, plural. A suite on the second floor, bedroom, sitting room, private bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. And connected to it, the nursery I'd seen before, now fully stocked and ready. "Dimitri's room is at the end of the hall," Katya said, her tone carefully neutral. "Close enough if you need him, far enough for propriety." I didn't know what to say to that. She left us to settle in, and I stood in the middle of luxury I'd never imagined, holding my sleeping daughter, trying to process that this was real, that I was here, that I'd agreed to this. A soft knock. Dimitri entered carrying a tray. "Tea," he said, "and food. You barely ate at dinner." Because I'd been too nervous, too aware of the weight of this decision. But I took the tray, let him guide me to the sitting room, watched him settle Emma in the bassinet he'd placed there. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For all of this. Don't thank me." He sat across from me, elbows on his knees, closer than propriety suggested. "This is selfish. Having you here, where I can see you, know you're safe. It's for me as much as you." "Why?" The question I'd asked before, but needed to ask again. "Why do you care this much?" He was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes searching mine. Then, "Do you believe in fate, Sophie?" "I don't know. Maybe." I didn't. I believed in power, control, making my own destiny. But then I saw you in that rain, and something in me just knew that you were meant to be mine, that I was meant to protect you, that Emma— He looked at the bassinet, his expression raw, that she was meant to be my daughter, even if another man's blood runs in her veins. My breath caught. "Dimitri, I know it's too soon. I know I sound insane, but I've spent my whole life knowing exactly what I want and taking it, and I want you, Sophie, both of you. Not just for protection, not just for a few weeks until this threat passes. Forever. You don't even know me. Then let me learn." He moved, kneeling in front of my chair, taking my hands. "Stay here. Let me court you properly. Let me show you what it means to be cherished. And if, after all that, you still want to leave, I'll let you go. I'll hate it. I'll probably follow you from a distance for the rest of your life, but I'll let you go. And if I stay—" His smile was slow, dangerous, full of promise. "Then I'll spend every day proving I deserve you." I should have been afraid, should have seen the obsession, the possession, the danger in his intensity, but all I felt was wanted, desired, treasured in a way I'd never experienced. "I'm not—" I struggled for words. "I come with so much baggage, a baby, an ex who's a criminal informant, no money, no education, no—" "You come with strength," he interrupted, "with courage and beauty, and a heart big enough to forgive the man who abandoned you. You come with Emma, who is perfect. You come with everything I never knew I needed." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "This is crazy." "Yes." He reached up, wiped them away with gentle thumbs. "But sometimes crazy is just another word for right." Then he kissed me. It was soft, questioning, giving me every chance to pull away. But I didn't. I leaned in, let myself taste the danger and promise of him. Let myself believe, just for a moment, that fairy tales could be real. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "Stay," he whispered against my lips. "Please." "I'm already here," I whispered back. "Then don't leave. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever." It was too much, too fast, too intense. But I was so tired of being alone, so tired of fighting everything by myself. "Okay," I breathed. "Okay." The first week passed in a haze of adjustment. Dimitri was gone during the days, business he wouldn't discuss, but present every evening. He'd come find us, wherever we were, and just be there. Playing with Emma, asking about my day, making sure I ate and slept and felt safe. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Kissed me goodnight at my door, held my hand during walks through the garden, but never assumed, never demanded. The rest of his family embraced us too. Natasha appointed herself Emma's guardian, insisting on helping with everything. Victor and Alexander treated me with careful respect, though I caught them watching sometimes, like they were trying to figure out what their brother saw in me. Marina was the one who finally explained it. "He's been alone for so long," she said one afternoon while we watched the children play. "Oh, he has family, has us, but alone in here." She touched her heart. After his father, after what he saw growing up, he didn't think he could have this, a family of his own, someone to come home to. "He barely knows me. He knows enough." She smiled. "And he's Dimitri. When he decides something, that's it. He's decided you're his. Now he'll spend the rest of his life proving he's worthy of being yours." It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like freedom. 2 weeks in, the threat came. I was in the garden with Emma when Dmitri came striding out, his face dark with fury, guards materializing from everywhere. Inside. Now. What's happening? Marcus gave them this location. He scooped Emma up, his other hand on my back, propelling us toward the house. They're coming. It's going to be okay, but I need you inside where it's safe. My heart hammered. How many? Enough, but not enough to get through my defenses. He handed Emma to Lynn, who'd appeared instantly. Take her to the safe room. Sophie, I'm staying with my daughter. Sophie, no. I met his eyes. If they're coming for us, I'm not leaving Emma. Fury and admiration warred in his expression. Then he kissed me, hard and fast. Fine, but you stay in that room until I come for you. No matter what you hear, promise me. I promise. The safe room was deep in the house, reinforced steel, monitors showing every angle of the estate. Lynn held Emma, murmuring soft reassurances in Russian, while I watched the screens. They came at dusk. 6 cars, maybe 20 men, heavily armed. They didn't know about the kill zone they were entering. Dmitri's voice came through speakers, cold and commanding. You're surrounded. Leave now and you might survive. Gunfire answered him. What followed was brutal and efficient. Dmitri's men were trained, prepared, deadly. The attackers never made it past the outer gates. It was over in minutes, though it felt like hours. When Dmitri finally came for us, there was blood on his shirt, a cut above his eye. But he was alive, whole, and the relief that flooded through me was overwhelming. It's done, he said quietly. They're dead or captured. And Marcus? His jaw tightened. Marcus is in custody, my custody. He'll never threaten you again. What will you do to him? What I should have done from the beginning. He pulled me close, Emma between us. But not for me. For you. For Emma. For every night you struggled alone because he was too much a coward to stay. Don't kill him. The words escaped before I could stop them. Please. I know he deserves it, but he'll live. Dmitri's eyes softened slightly. He'll work off his debt in less pleasant ways than I originally planned. But he'll live. Emma. Because you asked. I sagged against him, exhausted and relieved and overwhelmed. It's over now, he murmured into my hair. You're safe. Emma's safe. And I'm never letting anything threaten you again. That night, after Emma was asleep, Dmitri found me on the balcony off my room. I was staring out at the grounds, at the lights marking the perimeter, trying to process everything. Can't sleep? He asked, coming to stand beside me. Too much adrenaline. I know the feeling. He was quiet for a moment. You handled that well. Most people would have fallen apart. I'm a mother. We don't have the luxury of falling apart. No. He turned to face me fully. But you have the luxury of leaning on someone now. On me, if you want. I looked at him. This dangerous, powerful man who'd killed to protect me tonight, who'd built me a nursery and given me a home, and looked at my daughter like she was his greatest treasure. I think I more than want, I admitted softly. His breath caught. Sophie, I love you. The words tumbled out, terrifying and true. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I love you. The way you are with Emma, the way you look at me, the way you've made me feel safe for the first time in my life. I love all of it. I love you. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then he pulled me into his arms, held me so tight I could barely breathe. I love you too, he said fiercely. God, Sophie, I've loved you since that first night. Since you stood in the rain protecting your baby with nothing but determination and a broken coat. Since you begged mercy for a man who'd abandoned you. Since you trusted me enough to get in my car. He kissed me then, and it was different from before, deeper, hungrier, full of promise and possession and love. Marry me, he breathed against my lips. I pulled back, stunned. What? Marry me. Let me make this real. Let me adopt Emma, give her my name, give you both everything I have. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you. Dmitri, that's too much, too soon, I know. But I don't care. I want you to be my wife. I want Emma to be my daughter. I want to wake up every morning knowing you're both mine and I'm yours, and nothing will ever separate us. I should have said it was insane. Should have asked for time, for space, for rational thought. Instead, I said, yes. His smile was incandescent. Yes? Yes. I laughed through my tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, you can adopt Emma. Yes to all of it. He kissed me again, and again, until we were both laughing and crying, and I didn't know where he ended and I began. 6 months later, I stood in the estate's garden wearing a dress that cost more than I used to make in a year, watching Emma toddle toward Dmitri with Natasha's help. He scooped her up, kissed her cheek, settled her on his hip like she'd always belonged there. Then he turned to me, and the love in his eyes still took my breath away. We'd married quietly a month ago. Just family, just us, just the beginning of forever. Emma called him Papa now, had no memory of anyone else. The adoption had gone through last week, her birth certificate updated to show Dmitri as her father. Marcus was alive, working in one of Dmitri's more legitimate businesses, closely supervised, his debt slowly being repaid. He'd sent a letter when the adoption finalized. Just 3 words. She deserves better. For once he was right. Ready? Dmitri asked, Emma giggling in his arms. I looked at my husband, my daughter, the family that had materialized from a single desperate choice to accept a stranger's help in the rain. Ready, I said, and as we walked into the house together, our house, our home, our life, I sent up a silent prayer of thanks to whatever fate had put me on that street corner, in that storm, at exactly the right moment to meet the man who would change everything. I'd thought fairy tales were lies. I'd thought men who seemed too good to be true always were. I'd thought I was destined to struggle alone forever. I'd been wrong. Sometimes, rarely, miraculously, the dangerous man turns out to be the hero. The stranger in the expensive car turns out to be the love of your life, and the single mother standing in the rain finds her happily ever after all. Not because she was rescued, but because she was brave enough to accept love when it appeared, even from the most unexpected source. Emma squealed with delight as Dmitri spun her around, and I smiled, my heart full to bursting. This was my life now, our life. Chaotic, unconventional, built on a foundation most people would call insane, but it was ours, and it was perfect, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it.